It's showtime.
Go. Head on with Bob Kincaid. 3 hours of conversation, cussin' and a discussin' with America's only born and bred Southern liberal talk host. Head on with Bob Kincaid is brought to you each night by Coal River Mountain Watch. Coal River Mountain Watch invites you to become part of the solution, part of a sustainable future, part of the uprising against mountaintop removal. Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. And now, from high in the hills of beautiful West Bicod, Virginia, here's Bob Kincaid on the Head On Radio Network.
Well, howdy. And here we go, off and running for the 19th day of August, 2019, 8/19/19. This is The Horn. Headon.live is where we live. And that, of course, is where you go if you would like to be part of the extraordinary, the merry, wacky, zany, real-time multimedia extravaganza that is the Horn chat room. Pick yourself out a screen and name and a password at chatroom at headon.live. You'll be greeted by early arrivers Jimmy and Squeaky, and capably moderated by longtime inveterate, indefatigable veteran chat room moderator Sparky, who, despite being a third stage guild navigator, has refrained from folding space and is not man cave, but remains Sparky. You'll also be capably moderated by pinch hit midweek chat room utility moderator and all-around great guy, Steve from Georgistan. Hi, I'm Bob Kincaid. It's Moran Monday. And we're going to be about as busy as I can tolerate being. Yeah. Lots of Morans. Lots and lots of Morans. Definitely lots of Morans. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But every program here, as we all know, begins with thanks. And so thanks go out to our subscribers over the weekend. And that would mean thanks going out to David and Joseph and Sharon and Mike in Cascadia, Charlene in Rogues Island. Thank you to Stephen, and thank you to Grace. Thank you to Nancy, and thank you to Gary, labor man, out in New Mexico. Then, today, on an ad hoc basis, thanks go out to our buddy Tom in the Bay Area, and to Joe and Paula. Thank you very kindly, one and all. And because of Tom and Joe and Paula, well, by Jove, I have the happy job of saying that our fundraising goal for today is only $125. That's what happens when folks jump in proactively and get out in front. So thank you, Tom, a friend of the program for a very long time, as are Joe and Paula. Tom in the Bay Area, Joe and Paula out on the far eastern seaboard coast of North Carolina. Thank you both. Thank you all. So if we can raise $125, I could hush up about fundraising for the rest of the evening. As far as fundraising goes, this is the final week of fundraising for the month of August. If we can finish our fundraising and be done by Friday, well, by Jove, that'll mean fundraising-free radio for the remainder of the month. Okay? 125 tonight and then 200 tonight for the next 4 nights, and we're done. And whenever we get to done, well, it'll be fundraising-free radio, which is my favorite part of the month, not having to talk about this part. Yes. So thanks one and all. Thanks to our subscribers. Thanks to our Patreon subscribers. Thank you to folks who kick in on an ad hoc basis. Thank you all for keeping all of this on the air. Like I said, it's Moran Monday. And we've got an abundance of stuff to go into. Like I said, many Morans, many Morans. But I thought it might be kind of fun to get the evening or the program. Let's not assume some day part, because lots of people listen to the program at all kinds of different hours of the day. I thought it might be kind of cool to get the program started with something happy before we jump into the swamp. And what I had in mind was something that I saw on Twitter a few days ago. I'm as susceptible as anybody to cute cat pictures and, fuzzy little critter pictures, things like that. But this one just grabbed me. And in large part, it's because of the accent involved. Now, if you live in that region, it's just another day. But for the rest of us out here, this is almost as though it was narrated by John Candy. Let me set the scene for a little moment of happiness before we go into the mad world. A coyote pup is running across a field. A human being is worried about the coyote pup. And one of the amazing things about this video is that the audio conveys as much as the video does. I promise you're going to have a near terminal case of the awws by the time we're done. Because, well, I know this by virtue of empirically gathered evidence. Agnes got a crippling case of the awes when I played this for her. And again, it has a lot to do with the guy's accent. Little coyote pup, tall green grass, somewhere in the wilds of America, I guess.
No, it's okay. Hey. It's okay. Hey, shh. Come here. Hey, shh. You're okay. I'm not gonna fuck with you. Don't worry about it. No, you're not that tough. Come here. Hey. You gotta go to a rehab facility or something. Listen to me. Hey. You probably got mange. Maybe you got rabies. I should have brought my goddamn gloves. Shh, it's okay. It's okay.
He's a cross between John Candy and the character that John Candy voiced in Heavy Metal. You remember Den? Yeah, and what was the name of the green orb? That's my Lochnar. Yes. So he's kind of gotten the little coyote pup to settle down. It's laying down in the grass.
You need help. And I just don't want to get bitten. I want to help you, but I don't want to get bitten. Did some redneck shoot your parents? What's going on? Come on, hey. Shh, it's okay. I'm not going to fuck with you. Not in a bad way.
He begins gently
please
petting
don't
the
bite
back
me.
of
But
the
I've
coyote.
had my rabies spider, if it makes you feel any better. Shh. It's okay. What happened to your folks? Huh? Did rednecks kill your folks? I think...
In the rest of the world, we pronounce it folks. But, yes, what happened to your fucks?
You gotta come with me. I was gonna take you to a rehab. My friend Cece works in a rehab. Shh, it's okay. That was cute. You think you're tough. You're trying to show me you're tough. I believe you. I believe you're so tough. Come on, let's go. Oh my God, you're fucking emaciated. Please don't bite me. Please don't bite me or give me mange. Oh, you're shit too. Uh-oh. You're probably sick. Okay. Have we not established that I'm not gonna eat you? Don't you believe me yet? You're pretty underweight, and, you didn't want any of that turkey jerky I gave you, so that makes me worried. I just seen a tick jump ship, which means either there's some sort of problem with your blood flow, or the tick itself thinks you don't stand a chance. But I'm going to see that you have a chance. You know what I was going to do? Is take you to a nice rehab facility, and then they'll release you back to the wild, and you can go eat some feral cats and squirrels and stuff like that, you know?
Okay, who's got a case of the terminal Oz? That's just the sweetest damn thing I've seen in a long time. Just a little something to make us feel good about some of the, some of us on this planet. Not everybody's a freaking maggot. Can you imagine how a Trump supporter would have? Yeah, let's cherish the moment of human decency and kindness toward other living things on the planet, shall we? Yeah. Some redneck shoot your fucks. Yeah. So, yeah, again, just kind of fortifying ourselves with decency before we wade into the shit. Because we've kind of got to, do that.
You've got to remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land. Morons.
Hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right up. You will not believe your ears. It's Moran, Monday on the Horn. Here, just a few steps off the Carnival Midway. We've got everything that your curiosity could demand. Yes, only moments ago you were futilely engaged in the process of throwing ping pong balls at goldfish bowls in the vain hope of bringing home a nasty little baby iguana that will eventually grow to the size of a Volkswagen and probably eat your entire family. So come on over here to the Moran Monday tent. Yes, for a little more than, less than 15 cents per hour of programming, you too can be exposed and stare in wide-eyed amazement and wide-eared amazement at the host of birchers, deathers, baggers, booger eaters, libertarians, maggots, trumpanzees, Republicans, and occasionally others that are gathered here behind this thin cybernetic veil of canvas. Yes, indeed. They're all here for you in the Moran Monday tent. This is the program. You can't tell the Morans without a program, and this is the program that tells the Morans. You can tell I haven't done this in a couple of weeks. You just can't tell them much. Wow. Nope. So, for the subscribers, well, that less than 15 cents a day for the $10 a month subscriber will get you all the Morans you can stand. An advisory goes out to people entering the Moran Monday tent. Keep a close hand on purses, watches, wallets, jewelry, bracelets, rings, small children. Yes, even that iguana that you won throwing ping pong balls at goldfish bowls. Because, of course, the Morans can get grabby. Head for the hills, or you'll be up to your armpits in Morans. It's not a joke. It's for real. And where to begin? Well, I'd like to begin by backtracking a little bit to Nitwit Nero's Nuremberg rally in western PA last week. Because as the weekend progressed, and the more I read about it, the angrier I got. We knew, for instance, that those were union guys sitting there. They were sitting there for a reason. Most of the day, they'd been standing there. 7 a.m., on their feet, no work, but getting time and a half that could amount to a $700 day for them. It would have cost those union guys $700 each to have blown off that goodwill gesture toward the Tangerine Tiberius from the union that works and that has jurisdiction over that shop. And there's a lot of employees there, north of 2,000. It is, of course, and we will deal with this perhaps another time. That entire plant is an environmental nightmare. But it's hard for me to say that it's beside the point, but it's beside the point. So in exchange for $700 apiece, those guys stood all the way through lunch. They got no lunch. And remember, they were given a memo that said resistance will not be tolerated. So they were forbidden, in the name of those $700, from booing or engaging in any form of protest. But as it turned out, and this is the thrust of the Moran Monday nomination, they didn't need to be warned against protesting, because those union men were apparently maggot through and through. And this indicates that we have a bigger problem than we may have suspected. And what I'm talking about in particular is when Nitwit Nero, the orangutan, got to that point in his harangue where he engaged in the obligatory, now predictable sliming of the media. And if you recall the clips, there was this business about, I love trucks. Ever since I was a little boy, I've loved trucks. And my mother used to say, do you love trucks, Donnie? And I'd say, ooh, I do. Slipping into his mother's Scottish accent to say, I do. And then he talked about cranes. And he said, and I love cranes. I love cranes. Cranes are great. I love cranes. Now, he wasn't talking about sandhill cranes, which are actual birds. By the way, the state of Alabama has made legal something that hasn't been legal for over 100 years or so, I guess, namely the hunting of sandhill cranes. Not a lot of meat on sandhill cranes. Apparently one only shoots them for the pleasure of, well, as Johnny Cash sang, just to watch them die. No, we're talking about the cranes used in the construction industry. That's what Donnie Dimwit was talking about. And so after talking about cranes, he started talking about how he despises the Fourth Estate. The only actual profession mentioned in the Constitution of the United States, a free press. For all the power they wield, the lawyers don't get mentioned. The doctors don't get mentioned. The accountants, nope. Blacksmiths, buggy whip braiders, wheelwrights, coopers, nope. Just a free press. And in the course of his shrieking about his grievances against a free press, and remember, the official line was, no yelling, shouting, protesting, or anything viewed as resistance will be tolerated at the event. An underlying theme of the event is to promote goodwill from the labor unions. Your building trades leaders and job stewards have agreed to this. One wonders, did they vote? How democratic was that agreement? Ken Broadbent, business manager for Steam Fitters Local 449, said, this is just what Shell wanted to do, and we went along with it. We're glad to have the jobs. We're glad to have the project built. The president is the president whether we like him or dislike him. We respect him for the title. Granted, it's Western PA and the accent's way off, but you get the idea. So in talking about the cranes, Nitwit Nero said, I wonder if they'll let me operate it. I wonder if they'll let me run it. And then he said this. Maybe we could give the fake news media a ride on the crane. He's not talking about a ride in the cab. It was actually a reference to doing violence to members of the Fourth Estate who don't swear fealty to him and bow and kiss his hairy toe. He was, in short, talking about murdering members of the Fourth Estate. Now, let's take this one step further. It's not what it used to be, but there is still a good deal of union organization inside the for-profit media. Okay? I think it's a safe bet that Donald J. Trump himself is a member of a union. No kidding. SAG-AFTRA. He probably, it's much of TV is still a closed shop. And just as Rush Limbaugh, for instance, rails against unions, but is a member of SAG-AFTRA, as a performer on a bad reality television show, Trump himself was likely a union member. May still be. And so those media members likely included union members. They were, in fact, if one believes the rhetoric of the labor movement, they were brothers and sisters to the mostly male crowd assembled there in Monaca, Pennsylvania. And that leads to this, and the crux of the Moran Monday nomination. When Julius Geezer said he wanted to use the crane to murder members of the media, those steam fitters and various and sundry other union members just laughed and cheered and clapped and woo, MAGA, y'all, MAGA, woo! In a display of goodwill from the unions. So, no, there was no resistance. There was no protest. There was merely clapping and cheering at the fascist notion of the President of the United States murdering their union brothers and sisters. I'm sure they didn't think of those media members being their union brothers and sisters, but it does not change the fact that they were. And like I said, this betrays a bigger problem than we thought we had. Sparky says, I once had to stop work on a Bechtel power plant project for the governor of the state of California to visit, Gray Davis, in 2001. This is different than that. This is, they don't get paid if they don't show up, and they're forbidden from manifesting it, but they didn't have to worry about that because apparently they were maggots in the first place. Members of the building trades. In particular was mentioned, like I said, the steam fitters. I'd love to have a response from, say, the AFL-CIO on their members cheering violence being done to their union brothers and sisters. You know, some of those camera folks and whatnot, engineering types, they can be members of, for instance, the IBEW. Way back when I rode my dinosaur to work at CNN, there were rumblings, and it was sufficient to get us a raise, that the IBEW was thinking about coming in and organizing our newsroom. I was eager for it. I wanted to sign a card because I believe in organized labor. They never showed up, but a few more dollars did show up on our paychecks. But labor has traditionally been the mother church of progressive activism. Before there was anything else, there were people banding together to stand up to capital with the only thing they had of value, their labor. As early as the Lincoln administration, Abraham Lincoln, if you were listening to Dr. Bill in some of his more recent broadcasts, Abraham Lincoln was impressed by the economic theories of none less than Karl Marx. And Lincoln agreed, saying that labor is the linchpin upon which an economy turns. And if you're a longtime listener to Dr. Bill, you know about early organizations like the Knights of Labor and the Wobblies, the IWW. They were crushed like bugs because they not only demanded a seat at the table and a piece of the pie, they wanted control of the pie. Because they felt like theirs was the most important aspect of the within an economic structure. And so the question bears asking. Why did union members cheer violence against their union brothers and sisters? If we were to travel in time, this would be like saying, oh, that let's work within the framework of West Virginia's history. Let's say the UMWA went out on strike and was engaged in a fight for its life against the coal companies. And the steel workers stood on the sidelines cheering the coal companies. That's precisely what it was like. But don't worry. No one's going to bother Richard Trumka. And ask him to chastise some of his organization's membership for cheering violence against their union brothers and sisters. One of the great failed assumptions of 2016 was the notion that labor would stand with its traditional allies. Having watched here in West Virginia in previous years, I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. Because in 2012, the United Mine Workers couldn't be bothered to endorse Barack Obama for president, because Negro. Because Obama wore on coal. Because of that one in our White House. It was sickening. And with the display last week in Pennsylvania, we have reason to worry that labor may not be as reliable an ally as we had hoped it would be in 2020. Okay, so you don't protest, so you don't resist. That means you can stand there with your hands in your pocket. Or maybe that was resistance too. Maybe anything but fawning obsequiousness constituted resistance. They wanted that $700, baby. They better cheer when he starts talking about murdering journalists. Ron in Raleigh asks, please tell me, what the hell kind of so-called union contract do those guys have that allows them to be treated like indentured servants? You might as well not have a goddamn union if that's how you're going to allow yourself to be treated. Well, with unions as weak as they are, they will take just about anything that the employer dishes out. Stand by for a moment, please. I wanted to take that call. Got a call in on the stress line, and it turns out it's Carl, and Carl's a union man himself. And I think it would be beneficial that we talk about this. Hey, Carl.
Hi, I'm an operating engineer. I'm out of Western Massachusetts, and right now I'm working in Boston, outside of my local. And I've known quite a few crane operators who've been to New Jersey and that new place there in Western Pennsylvania. And we are inundated with so many Trump morons. It's unbelievable. And when you tell them, he doesn't like unions. He hates unions. Oh, no, you don't understand. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. He likes union workers. I'm like, no, look at his track record. And I've talked to BAs, business agents about it, and I've talked to business managers about it, and they're like, we just gave up. We can't. There's nothing we could do. They're voting against their best interest. But then you'll hear people who aren't part of a union who tell me that they tell them how to vote, which is impossible. You can't tell somebody how to vote. This one crane operator I know, he worked on the Tappan Zee Bridge, rebuilding the new Tappan Zee Bridge. And I was working at a college with him a couple winters ago, and I've guy since he was an apprentice. I was his part-time instructor some years ago. And he's a real talented guy, and he's really smart. And he says to me one time, can you believe that Hillary Clinton's, the guy who did all the murders for Hillary Clinton came out on the news and he said he did all these murders? And I looked right straight at him. I said, you just answered your own fucking question. If somebody's doing a killing for Hillary Clinton, why would they come out? Well, yeah, why would he come out and tell you he did all these killings? This is what we're up against. You can't talk common sense in these people.
Yeah, logic is gone. Logic is just gone.
It is.
And on that particular topic, the thing that I keep coming back to, Carl, is that if she was really that diabolically devious and good at murdering people without them knowing they were going to be murdered, why would you say it out loud? Yeah. Why would you say it out loud?
Why would the guy who murders for her tell somebody that he murdered somebody? That would be the worst snipe, the worst hitman in the world. Admit that you did all this killing for somebody for money. Common sense doesn't equalize, or rationality does not permeate the gray, the thick skulls into the gray matter of a Trump supporter. It really doesn't, and it won't. So I've almost given up.
So I
argue because I just like arguing.
Yeah, but I want to go back to what you said a minute ago, and that is, you talk to the BAs and the shop stewards and whatnot, and they say, "Well, we've just given up. They can't be reached."
Some shop stewards they're Trumplicans too.
Yeah,
a lot of stewards.
But I mean,
a lot of BAs. Some of them are.
But the ones who said we've just given up, we can't reach them. Doesn't that bode ill for the long-term health of the union?
Yeah, but they've tried. This one BA, I've known him out of Boston. I work in a different local right now. It's kind of hard. I'm working in Boston. My local only goes to Western Mass, but because I'm kind of specialized in what I do, and this BA, I've known him probably 10 years, and he's like, I've given up on him. He goes, I can't talk. He goes, there's no way I could get through. And he's just like, he goes, it's just even hard to talk to, with you. I'm like, and I used to get into politics with him all the time.
Well, I wonder if
you cannot get through these idiots.
I wonder if a particular issue like this one might be a breakthrough moment. If somebody like Rich Trumka at the AFL-CIO was to address it and say, listen, brothers and sisters, you never cheer violence against your union brothers and sisters. You did that in PA. Shame on you. What would happen then? I mean, I know Trumka's on the way out the door, but what would happen then?
I don't know. I don't think they'd understand. My international, they just set up. We set up our training site, our national training site in Beaver, West Virginia. I've been to it several times. It was just for instructors.
Yeah,
it wasn't
I know where it is. I know about it. Yeah.
Now we have one for cranes. It's just for cranes in Texas. I'm supposed to be going there to upgrade my crane licenses. They have tower cranes there, and everything's state of the art. They get changed out once a year, all brand new. All state of the art. And it's a beautiful facility. You go there, you don't have to leave. They even have beer at night, and you don't get drunk, but you could have a few beers, and it's an 8 or 10 hour day all week long, and you don't even have to pay to go there because our dues go to this place. And a couple of the instructors from there came up, and they were to one of our meetings, one of our monthly meetings, and they were showing us this and blah blah blah, and this is what we have, and enroll, blah blah blah. And after it was done, and this is right after Trump was there, and I asked them, why the fuck did you guys let him in there? They had, it was all of the media with our steam dial. He's standing at a podium with our goddamn steam dial, and I'm like, you just gave all these idiots a reason to fucking vote for him. Well, yeah, we know, blah blah blah, but it was contingent upon. They get these cranes, these brand new cranes from the manufacturers, and the manufacturers had mouth in the whole thing and had a say, and that's what they want. And it's a brand new facility, and I'm just like, I was pissed off. I said he should never have been in that training facility at all. And they agreed with me, but they were like, it wasn't up to us. But I think it's because they got money from from the federal government to put it in there. And my thing was, of all the states you could put it in, you put it in one of the most anti-union hate unions. And their thing was, well, we're using it as a showcase with manufacturers and everything. So they're hoping to get more union companies down there in Texas.
Yeah, I can understand that argument. I
can too, and it's dry down there. The thing is, it's dry. The weather's always nice. There's no heavy, not a lot of rain. It's not, they don't. Whereas the groundwater's way down, so they don't have to worry about rain. Water problems, water table problems, things like that. And it's flat. The weather's always halfway decent. But I could understand that. Kind of hard to set up a tower crane in West Virginia.
So, I can, no kidding. But so you think the manufacturers had a hand in that particular instance?
Yes, that and probably the federal government. The money was there, and they
outfits like Harnischfeger and
yes, maybe Grove. The big manufacturers and tower crane manufacturers. Because there's a lot of crane work in Texas, but they don't have much name of licensing, so they have a lot of crane accidents. A lot of crane accidents down there. It's a daily thing to see something on the web where a crane rolls over, it goes over.
Yeah, that's a fantastic training program that the union maintains there. If you're not union, how do you learn to run a crane? Some guy with a hip flask in his pocket says, "Yeah, come here."
Well, some states, a lot of states, that's where they draw the line. They don't have, in Massachusetts, they have a license for anything, a lawnmower. Not, a lawnmower on the side of the road. If you're working for somebody, if you're running a Bobcat legally, even on your own property, you're supposed to have a license for it. Now you could go and get I think it's a 2 or 3 week license once or twice a year, like if you're doing work at your house, unless you're a farmer, then you don't need a license. But it's because they've had so many accidents, in the past, and we have all these licenses because it cuts down on accidents.
Well, they are like those sorts of things. Those sorts of pieces of heavy equipment are in the language of the law, dangerous instrumentalities.
Yes. In other states, the the most dangerous piece of equipment on a construction site is a bobcat, because they let any moron just, oh, that's the smallest thing, just get in that and move it around. It's not too bad. And the things that you can't see behind you. It's almost impossible. And so you get a lot of people that roll them over. They hit somebody, they run over somebody, things like that. But Massachusetts, we have a lot of you have to get a separate license for almost everything.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you're familiar with the clip in question, right, Carl?
The what?
You're familiar with I don't have the audio clip handy, but you saw him when he said, maybe they'll let me drive it, talking about a crane.
Yeah, operate. He actually said the right terminology, operate.
He said
I'm
operate.
Surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised he said operate.
He actually was trying to get him to let him do that, wasn't he? He actually wanted to do that.
If that was my rig, I wouldn't let him. But I'm anti-moron, so I don't know if it was one of the biggest cranes in the world, because cranes are a funny thing, because they have, what somebody might call the biggest crane in the world is half the size of the biggest crane in the world, depending on what it is, mobile crane or, barge to crane, they have different, there's so many different types, crawlers,
Yeah, the image mobile that comes to mind for me
truck cranes
are those giant cranes in Miami the last time that a hurricane blew through, and they were just swinging through 360 degrees like toys.
Those are tower cranes.
Yeah, that's frightening.
Those are. I like those. I've operated them just because I've been up but I haven't had a job where that's what I did. But they're neat. I love heights, so it's no problem for me to get up there. But some people can't. Some people they get up half a flight, half a deck, and they just start shaking, and they know. But I like heights.
So 60 stories up, and you're good.
Yeah. I've climbed up. When I was in the Army, I climbed up 220 feet of what they call lattice boom crane, the stuff with all the pipes on it, all the way up to the top.
That just made my stomach feel like it was falling through the floor. So I guess I'm one of those people.
Well, it was in the Tidewater area of Virginia, Newport News area, where everything's just flat. And I come from the mountains, so I got up to the top and I just looked around and went, wow, I could see something from here. It's it's like going down to West Virginia. It's kind of reminds me of Western Mass a little bit.
Yeah, the Berkshires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm close to the Berkshires.
I remember a story from a long time
everywhere
back.
You look.
One of Boss Man Wayne's buddies, his nickname was Squirrel, and he used to tell this story about somebody, and I forget what union he was in, but somebody told him to climb up there and do whatever, and he looked at him and said, "No." And they said, "But your nickname's Squirrel." He said, "Yeah, but you don't know my first name. Ground Squirrel."
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but I've been fretting about this whole scenario all weekend long because I'm weird that way. I get hold of something and I just worry it like a dog with an old bone, and it scares me that because the obvious reason that he was in Pennsylvania had nothing to do with praising labor. It had nothing to do with what an awesome or not awesome facility that place is. It had to do with him trying to shore up his flagging poll numbers because he's on the verge of collapse in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, the three places that for all intents and purposes, delivered him the presidency.
Yes, or what I call he's blowing smoke up his own ass.
That too. But the bottom,
that's pretty much all he does.
Yeah, but the bottom line on that, Carl, is that from the sound of the cheering I heard, if a bunch of union guys will go out and pull the lever for him or check the box or whatever, then it may go a long way. It may go a long way.
Hello?
Yeah, you're there. The YouTube,
Okay.
the Bluetooth dropped for a minute. YouTube, Jesus. But shoring up those union members willing to shoot themselves in the foot might be enough to save a state like Pennsylvania for him. And that's frightening.
Yep.
And I
what
don't.
frightens me.
Go ahead.
What frightens me is we have all these people. Like I used to have this one foreman. He retired, but his wife is a few years younger than him, so she can't get on Medicare. But so he has to work 1,200 hours a year or whatever to get Medicare. And he got bit by cobra a couple years ago. So he's been a Trump supporter for a long time. And I get into arguments with him on Facebook. I'm just like, yep, he gets another term. You're going to be working till you're dead. And he doesn't understand that.
Yeah, no dignified retirement for you, bub.
Nope. And my other thing is, if he does get back in, he gets a second term. What's the chances are that the Republicans do something with pensions the way, even worse than they did with the airline industry, and just take part of their pensions away and just say, "Oh, sorry, this is ours now."
Well, especially if the economy tanks.
Yes, but say, like, I've worked with big companies like Bechtel and things like that. Let's just say that a company like that won't go to the state federal government and say, we're not doing so good, and he's got some of our pension, he does too, and he does. They all work for us. We want some of that money back. Sort of like a modified version of what they did to American Airlines, or whoever it was, U.S. Air. Who, what they did. What Romney just has done so many times. Just take the pensions away from them.
Right. Sure.
And these people don't understand this. It could happen. All it would take is a judge. There's a series of judges to say, "Oh yeah, there's no problem. You guys aren't doing too good. Take their pensions. Take the part that you gave them. Even though my pension is through my local, but it's still, it's all recorded. They could come up with a scenario to do that. Sure as hell, Willard Romney could sure as hell do that shit.
Well, we see it happen in the coal industry all the time, Carl.
Yeah,
and those
what they just did with those guys.
Yeah, what they did.
Yeah.
The Kentucky train blockade is still going on.
Yeah, I'd rip those rails apart. They wouldn't stand a chance.
Well, one of the more interesting aspects of that is that a group that is not their natural ally, a little anarchist group, has begun standing with and supporting those coal workers on blocking the trains. And I guess they're
who's that?
I don't know the precise name of the group, but they're out there doing a little bit of information management and joining them on the tracks and things like that. And I guess they're happy to happy to have an ally of any sort at this point.
Yep. Not hard to block tracks. Very easy to block a track. I've worked on tracks before. It takes very little to fuck them up. Very little. But you do like a $100 welder.
So you mentioned this union, that union. How pervasive do you think magotry is overall inside the labor movement?
Oh, there's quite a bit of people who they're so blindsided. They think he's the best. They think because he's rich, he's smart, and because he's smart, he's rich.
And are they buying in because they also dig the racism, the xenophobia?
Oh yeah, I know people even before Trump. I had one pile driver I used to work with, and he still works in the company. Now he's a foreman. I mean, this guy would be on jobs near a road or something like that. He'd see a black guy, we should take all those ends and send them back. I'm like, oh, just look. And everybody would put up with his mouth. And I would just look at him like, first you first. You got to go to Poland. You got to go back to Poland. You go first. You've been here less time than them. You go first. because everybody came here from a different country,
right,
different land.
Unless you're
Even
an
the
Apache
Indians
or a
did,
Cheyenne,
technically.
Yeah.
They just got 10,000 years, 6 or 10,000 years on us. It's just, you go back first. Oh, you would get pissed off at me. He's same age as me, in a lot better shape, and could fight a lot better, but I really didn't give a shit. And, and there's quite a few people, and you can see when he says it in front of a group of like 6 or 7 people, and you can see the reactions on their faces, which ones are, in line with them, and which ones aren't. Because they're just shocked, not totally shocked, because after a while, it just kind of, they get used to it. But when you see them hear it the first time, that they're either on the same level as him or not. But there are a lot of people who think that way. And it's just, that's sick. It really is sick. But they think he's smart. They think he's, and you try telling them all his lies. He knows more about health insurance. He knows more about science. He knows more. He knows he's so. If he's so fucking smart, why can't he speak a complete sentence without sounding like an absolute moron?
That was my next question, Carl. What's wrong with these people that they think he's smart? How is it that you and I can look at him and know he's a moron, but they think he's some sort of brain?
I don't know. I can't understand. Because I have some of his, you see where they take his speeches and stuff like that, and they write them, they just type them out. You can reread them. And I've reread them to people and had them, hey, does this sound like it, comes from somebody who's smart? Well, yeah, it makes sense, blah, 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 blah. He just repeated himself 10 times in 2 paragraphs. And he said nothing. Well, that's fake news. Some of them are fake news. It's fake news. And that's kind of hard to get around, that fake news. It's not real. It's fake. That's what they're doing.
Well, you've got some agreement over in the chat room. Hoghead just sent me a message, and he said, I screamed that he would wipe his ass with your contracts years ago. And Hoghead's a BLE UTU member, retired. He said, nobody listened. Now they act surprised.
Yeah. There's one guy I'm on Facebook with. He's an airline pilot. Plus he's I forget what, he's an executive or something like that in his local. I'm like, and the guy's smart, but he believes everything Trump says. He lives in Texas.
Of course.
And he's like when you try pointing out, all his failures and how he really isn't that smart. He's not that gifted. And he's not brave. Somebody who slips a morning newspaper underneath his wife's bedroom door to tell her that he's breaking up, divorcing her. That's not a brave man. That's a coward. That's an outright fucking coward.
Well, the Trumps have never been known for their courage. They've got generations of cowardice behind them.
And I've spent 6 years in the Army, and I was recalled for Desert Storm, and not that I'm pro military, but anybody who got out of Vietnam, I have, by whatever means they got out with. But I mean, taking something like that, like him and Ted Nugent's another favorite of mine.
Don't leave out Limbaugh and his pilondial cysts. Yeah,
that's him also. But somebody who got out that way and then is pro war is just that's what pisses me off. And that really pisses me off. I mean, I'm so anti-war. I don't salute the flag anymore. I don't disrespect it. I don't salute the flag. The only time, I take my hat off and everything else. I don't kneel or anything. I don't need that much exposure, that much. But I've been poked in I go every Veterans Day and Memorial Day to the town hall with my son and usually my wife, and I pay my respects. And what gets me is excuse me, I'm getting brain block. Is taps. Taps really gets me, and that's because I know people who died when I was over there, and I know people in my family have died serving in Vietnam and World War II, and I respect the flag. What gets me is the people who think they respect the flag and they fly it behind their car, ripped and tattered, and it's just spraying in the wind, and it's just dirty as shit. And I say something to them, and they look at me like I'm the one doing it. Oh, you don't like the flag? You pull it, you got it tied behind your, on the bed of your Toyota pickup truck that's probably made, not American made, and it is dirty. We're seeing that piece of shit flag, the
Devil's Diaper?
The rebel flag there.
Yeah, the Devil's Diaper.
The Devil's Diaper. I see it up here. This is New England. I see it up here. They have one it's a mixture. I'll have to post a picture of it on your Facebook page. I've seen this at a swap meet. It's a mixture of the United States flag and the Devil's Diaper in the same flag. That one pissed me off. I couldn't tell the guy. I had to walk away. I was at an automotive swap meet. I had to walk away because I was just so pissed. And I have a good one for what's the motto they use for the?
Oh, don't tread on me. For the Euro?
No, for the Devil's Diaper.
Heritage, not hate.
Yeah. Oh, I've walked up to people. Hey, you got a typo on your shirt, and they look down and they say, you just look at them. There's not a N or a T in of. Heritage of hate.
Yeah, exactly.
And it gets you can walk away. I've done it to maybe 2 or 3 people, and you can literally walk away, and they're looking down at their shirt. They're trying to read it, from the top. They're trying to read it upside down, and you turn around and look, and when they get it, they're pissed. They are pissed because it is heritage of hate, not heritage not.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, that one gets them. And then the don't tread on me. You go to your local welding store, they always have these paint markers.
Right.
They sell them in yellow. Because I'm right near an Air Force base. And what pisses me off is to see somebody who's retired out of the Air Force, because they display that all over. I'm right near Westover Air Force Base. And you'll see the urine flag, and you take one of those. It's a paint pen, yellow paint pen, and you just mark out the T on tread. Just put a little V, and they usually don't notice it, so it says "Don't read on me."
Yeah,
I think I got that one from you, but I got the trick.
Don't read to
me by myself. Don't read on me. So there's quite a few of those stickers running around here. I always have one in my car.
Well, I'm glad you called in because you provide, Carl, you provide a little context and clarity to this issue.
All right, thank you. I hope heard you talking about it.
I hope the union leadership won't give up on the idea of educating because much more of this maggot business, and there won't be any unions. Or if they do, if there are, they will be captives to Trump.
Yes. And so watered down, it won't matter.
Right. And that goes to the question, the Ron and Raleigh asked, what kind of contract do these guys have that they can have their pay held over their heads if they don't show up and cheer for the dear leader?
Yeah, be puppets like the trumpet. That's all it is.
And the fact that they had to put.
If I was in that situation, I don't think I'd go, or I would. I think I wouldn't go because I'd have to be vocal. or I wish that I say get seated behind them, so
Well,
somebody could see.
that's another thing. I mean, there's some sort of contract involved. There's some sort of collective bargaining agreement involved, right?
Yep.
And if that's the case, then what does that mean? Resistance will not be tolerated. Does that mean you'll be arrested, thrown out of the meeting, or does it mean you'll be fired from your job?
I think it'll be assimilated. Is that a Star Trek reference?
Well, it's a Borg reference. But I mean, seriously, if you've got a collective bargaining agreement, can you be fired for holding up your middle finger or turning your back on him?
I think they could figure out another way to get rid of you. It's very easy. People think that just because you're a member of a union, that you can't be fired. It's easier to fire a union guy, especially construction, than it is anything else. It's very easy. I mean, it's just they just say, well, we did away with your job, or we're done with you, and you just leave. And I mean, unless there's been people really ragging on you or something like that, or there's been accidents or something like that, and they're documented. It's kind of hard.
Well, a few minutes ago, Steve in New York wrote in and said, sounds like what we have here is a Trump-infected union. The question is, how widespread is this infestation? And we need to assess that. But in the building trades, there's maggots all over, aren't there?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Big time. I worked up at Amherst College a couple of years ago, and it was a big job. There was like probably 300-400 people on it. It was a real big science building, and they had to move all the porta potties into one group and have somebody. They had a laborer, when you came out, she looked to see if you put any graffiti on the walls of the porta potties. And I had a problem, they hired a woman to do that, and there was only one or two other women on the whole job site. It's I'm like, isn't this, I asked her one day, isn't this degrading? She goes, I wasn't working. She goes, I'm getting a big, she goes, I'm working Saturdays and Sundays. She goes, and it's easy. She goes, I don't care. I'm just like, all right, whatever. I was just wondering. Yeah, no problem. But that's all she did. They treated him, because there was so much anti-Trump, and and Barack Obama was already out, and there was so much anti-Hillary, anti-Barack, and you should have seen it. Daily stuff. They would sand it off. The Sandy Ken guy would come just about every day and sand them off.
A lot of Fox viewers among the building trades. Limbaugh listeners, that sort of thing.
It's hard to know where they get their knowledge, their propaganda from, especially now with that one American network or something like that.
Oh yeah.
If I talk to them long enough, I could kind of tell where they get it from, depending on how out there it is. If they mention the Pizzagate and stuff like that.
You're talking to an Alex
Jones. I know where they get it from.
Yeah.
Yes. Or he still works for the company. This guy's a nut job. He's one of these people. He thinks, vapor trails, fluoride, in the water.
Chemtrails.
Bill Clinton wears a leather suit, wears a human rubber suit. The moon isn't a moon; it's a satellite that the
Illuminati put up.
We can't see it. Oh God, this guy's like.
Yeah, I mean, if you've had a couple of pops, it can be entertaining, but otherwise, no.
Oh, it isn't entertaining. He brought all 3 books of the Clinton conspiracies. They have Clinton drugs, Clinton money, and there's Clinton cash, Clinton drugs, Clinton sex. And I'm like, hey, he's showing these all to us. He's like, blah, 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 blah. And Tom Hartman had one of the author of one of them on years ago, and all the footnotes, like one of the footnotes is, heard it from a guy I was sitting with on a plane, and he's showing us all these books, blah, blah, blah. See this? This is all true. And I'm like, hey, you're missing one. What is the Clinton rock and roll? Oh, he got this.
Well, Carl, I appreciate you calling in, my friend.
Rock and roll?
All right. It's good to hear from you. And stay safe, and don't hesitate to jingle anytime the spirit moves you, all right?
Yeah. Oh, one quick thing.
Sure.
You still got a queen-size bed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to send you something this winter.
Ooh.
I'll have to get your, yeah, you'll like it.
Oh, well, thank you.
You'll like it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It'll be brand new.
Okay, cool.
From the store.
All right. Great. Thanks.
You got to pull, I don't have a pen with me right now. I'm outside. I don't get a signal in my house. Is it on your Facebook page at all?
Yeah, the mailing address is on the Facebook page. Or not the Facebook page.
Okay, all right.
The Horn web page, headon.live.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much. You have a nice night.
Hey, thank you for all the valuable information, Carl. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right,
no problem.
take care.
Bye.
Bye now. Carl, usually of Massachusetts, but not at the moment. Or Western Massachusetts, but not at the moment. And, well, I think that tells us a lot about what happened when they cheered their Union brothers and sisters being killed, or at least tormented or wounded or hurt, harmed. I think it tells us why. And I'm going back to the phones just in a second here, but I had to share this with you. I don't play much music on the program anymore. But when I heard that clip of him saying, I like cranes ever since I was 4 years old, I do. Ooh, I do. Jesus, he sounded like God. But it immediately put me in mind of a Drive-By Truckers song. You'll understand why.
Bulldozers and dirt, bulldozers and dirt. What's your mama got hidden up her shirt? I like to play and I like to work, but most of all I like bulldozers and dirt. I met your mama.
You get the idea. Bulldozers and dirt. Drive-By Truckers from, God, what album to say? That comes from Pizza Deliverance, I think. Yeah, one of the earliest albums, Pizza Deliverance. Nitwit Nero should, somebody should play that for him. I imagine he'd especially like that line about what your mama got hiding under her shirt. Yeah. So all we have to do is raise $125 this evening. So far, we're at zero. It would be great if we could get off that little number and maybe knock it down below 100 or what. Just keep the, because I really want us to have some fundraising free radio. I'd like to have. God, wouldn't it be fun if we knocked this week out this evening and it was fundraising free radio? We had 9 whole days of it. Yeah, probably not going to happen. But anyway. 125 for this evening, if we can get started on that. A couple of notes. Flavio says that'd be a good question for Rick Smith, wouldn't it? Why union members cheered for violence against their fellow union members. Although I suspect Rick probably couldn't answer it with any more alacrity than Carl did. The fact of the matter is, there's a bunch of maggots in organized labor. And they don't give a damn what their leadership tells them. As for changing minds, Steve in New York says, it's difficult to change people's minds and see them admit they made a wrong choice. However, throw in people infected with Dunning-Kruger and you have a particularly nefarious scenario. Endemic to thinking people are these things: skepticism, admitting one is ignorant of many things while seeking to learn and know more, and admitting one's own ignorance. It makes one seek to learn more. Doubt about one's own decisions, and doubt about what one hears from the media, etc. These items lead to thinking people being skeptical of seeing things black and white. These items lead thinking people to being hesitant to be definitive in their thinking because they admit they're ignorant and need to learn more. When a person is ignorant but possesses no ability to be introspective, out of their ignorance comes a parochial belief that not only do they know all they need to know, there's nothing else to know, and they know more than everyone anyway. Think stable genius. It's hard enough to change an intelligent, introspective mind. To change a mind that is uninterested in considering they're wrong, that is incurious, that knows what they know, is almost impossible. Renee in D.C. says, it sounds eerily like a pesky so-called right-to-work contract. So regarding the job of contractual consideration, the union member can either love it or shove it. Yeah, you don't want to cheer President Trump? All right. Yeah, you're free to go and drive an Uber if you want to. Meanwhile, note coming in from Mike in Cascadia, where the wild things are. Hey, Bob, regarding that wild coyote pup and connections to other good things wild and free, remember, at the start of the Trump regime, Trump and Zinke reversed the bird hunting lead shot ban. Also remember, Trump and Zinke and the regime opened up the slaughter of bear cubs and wolf pups in their dens. Wait, there's more. Last week, the Trump regime gutted the Endangered Species Act. Also in 2017, the Trump regime, along with Orrin Hatch and the Utah GOP, presided over the largest rollback of protected federal land in U.S. history with their evisceration of Grand Staircase Escalante and the Bears Ears National Monuments. Last week, you might have seen a picture of Ivanka posing on a hillside festooned with sagebrush and wildflowers, and I'll add thistles. Obviously, she was out west somewhere. Her caption, "Where the wild things are." Then she posted a selfie of her and her precious lumpkins in a tent. Her caption, "Camping." Can she be any more vacuous or out of touch or completely oblivious to the abject destruction and death her rotten old man is imposing on our glorious public lands, landscapes, and wildlife? Well, don't ask that question, Mike, because she'll answer it, and you won't like the answer you get. The fact of the matter is, I saw those photographs, and Leni Riefenstahl could not have framed them more perfectly. Let's run over to the phones and check in with Todd. Hey, Todd. Yo, Todd.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, that was a wonderful, informative call. That was a Carl?
Yeah, that was Carl.
That was great. That was scary. What Trump did with that shell in Western Pennsylvania. That's what a lot of us are concerned about, because these folks are living vicariously through him. He says what he has the buzzwords. He says what they like to hear. He makes them think the jobs are coming back. There's a lot to that. They feel comfortable. He makes them feel comfortable. And then when Trump reverted into being a child talking about the trucks, I was like, oh my God, just stop. That's our president, man.
I know. But for a minute you sit there and you just sort of, you're kind of slack-jawed. But then you start, well, how do you, because our, being primates, no spectacular night vision, no sharp pointy fangs, no claws, no speed. We have to rely on our big primate brains. So we tend to say, okay, so how do we solve this problem? But my takeaway from my conversation with Carl is that A, it's damnably difficult, and B, the people who could solve the problem don't seem to have much interest in it.
No. Well, oh my God. Well, you see, that goes back to the industrialists. Think about it. They're depressing wages worldwide. They want everybody to make $10 an hour. If you live in Malaysia or Manioc, okay, they want $10 an hour wages across the board. Then you don't have to worry about the jobs going overseas. Everybody's making the same wage. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's their goal. Labor is expensive. But this thing about it, I mean, it's going to be a short call. But I mean, there's a lot. But this thing with docking people's pay. When I really dug into those articles about that, now how does that Janus decision fit into that? Are there articles in that decision? I guess that's the wrong word. Articles. Does it make provisions?
I'm frankly not certain. I would imagine that contract probably predates that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what Carl says is true. They might not outright fire you if you said, fuck Trump. But your life would become very difficult on the job.
Well, that's where I was going with this. I mean, when you're working with heavy machinery, how much? I mean, like Carl does what he says he does. That's like being a cop and speaking up against a rotten cop on the job. They don't have your back.
In under very dangerous circumstances, yeah.
So this whole thing is getting a little mucky here. We can't let simple folk take over. So somehow we have to convince people that it's not that professors are better than you. It's just that
they've studied and know a little more.
Yeah, but everyone doesn't like to hear it. I don't know how to say that in a delicate way. I'm somewhat blunt. But yeah, because they're professors. And who wrote that email? That was a wonderful email that you read where it was. They said it very nicely a few minutes ago. Talking about, well, I know enough, and I know that's
Steve.
What I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if it was Steve or Flavio. Yeah. So, and it was nice. I mean, there's a lot going on with that, but that blew my mind. There's just a lot going on. The past 4 days, a lot of shit is blowing up as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, it was weird, Todd, because over the weekend, on the one hand, you see this, you see that. It's the usual parade of madness and spitefulness and just the overall shittiness of this regime. On the other hand, I woke up Saturday and Sunday mornings and went, hey, no mass shootings today, which is a horrible commentary on where we are. But there was stuff. I mean, things are still rolling out from like the ICE raids in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people who were arrested were the same people who had given evidence against the company in the case that wound up with the company having to pay $3.75 million.
Oh.
Meanwhile, in one particular instance, a mother had her baby literally pulled off her breast so that she could be arrested. And her husband is Guatemalan, she's Mexican. He's been here for eons, so is she. They are, for all intents and purposes, law-abiding.
Mm-hmm.
And they were and she was rounded up. He wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got 3 kids to take care of while he's still trying to keep a family together, including a nursing infant.
Now, do those folks get public defenders, or he has to try to?
No. These are immigration cases, so public defender doesn't necessarily apply. Legal aid certainly doesn't. There's 2 or 3. I mean, it's a tiny handful of immigration lawyers, because immigration law is arcane and incredibly specific. And so there's this tiny handful of immigration lawyers who travel around trying to handle a caseload that would devastate almost any lawyer.
I think what you just said, that one sentence, what you just said, that half a paragraph, has a lot of weight to it. In the times that we live in, because these motherfuckers are changing the law as we speak. They change the law every week by fiat.
Yeah, and by interpretation, fiat interpretation, same.
That's scary.
And there are north of 8,000 men being held in prisons who are being held there because they've been rounded up and stuffed. Their crime is literally being here. I saw one report over the weekend on a guy. He's trained as a physician, an MD. He's from Central America, but he went to medical school in Cuba and came here, and he's working in some sort of godforsaken job, not practicing medicine. And any one of the little communities where folks where migrant folks work could sure use another doctor, but for all I know, he's taking apart chickens. And that guy is in Gen Pop inside what at one point was a for-profit prison.
This whole procedure is insidious. That Stephen Miller.
Well, these really are concentration camps, and you just, the duck just dropped from the ceiling here, Todd, because you said Stephen Miller, and he was the secret word.
Oh, and do I get a cigar?
Yeah, absolutely. But the goddamn New York Times seems to be incapable of learning. And so after the previous week's headline of Trump and, Trump tries to calm racial tensions, which was, the exact antithesis of what he'd done, and the Times got raked over the coals for that. Well, this weekend they come out with a headline about Stephen Miller with another, I guess you'd say ink and newsprint act of fellatio. And that, they detailed, it said, that stupid fucker worked for Michelle Bachmann. That should tell you everything you need to know.
I just learned that in the past couple of weeks. Right. I just learned that. Now the people who've been paying attention understand that folks from his childhood out in Southern California are coming out. Like, in other words, let's everybody get this straight. He's a self-hating Jew, number one. He's a self-hating Jew. So he knows what he's doing.
Well, his own uncle would agree with your assessment there, because remember, his family called him out and said, if the policies you envision were in place, our family would not have gotten here, and we would have all died in the Holocaust.
Yes. And I look at his body language a lot now because I already know what he's about. And he's a cocky little piss motherfucking son of a bitch. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I don't know his mother. That's a terrible term. He leaves a lot to be desired. And he has been, and I've heard people say this, but it's a fact. Now he's long standing. He's been in the background. Like, even when Bannon was out, a lot of the other white supremacists were out, but he was in there. He stayed in there deep. And you see some of these folks are the worst type, the Stockholm Syndrome folks, like Stephen Miller, the self-hating Jew. He's sadistic, like these ICE people. Let's take a look. Look at how these prison guards, these concentration camp guards, they're getting their cues from this administration. This is why we've had at least 6 incidents of ICE people, concentration camp people, and detention place people running over civilians. They ran over
the incident in Rhode Island That guy was allowed, instead of being charged with a goddamn crime, I don't think he's been. He was allowed to quietly resign.
See, fuck that. If you run somebody over, man, that's attempted murder, that's attempted vehicular homicide. But
do you know what was said over on Fox News TV Radio Rwanda, Todd?
No, I do not.
I think it was over on Fox. Well, he's a sworn law enforcement officer. He has an absolute right to get to work. He needed to do that.
Oh, that's what that fucking troll-ass Lou Dobbs said.
Yeah, there we go.
I saw him say that. That motherfucker, I'm done with his fucking stupid ass. He needs to go home. Fuck him. I hope he hears me, too. Fuck you, Lou. You've run your course, man. Go home and take some Geritol and try to get it up. Do what the hell fuck you.
And meanwhile, offering a little more context on the issue of the Union brothers who cheered in PA for their Union brothers and sisters to be killed by Trump. Jason says 45% of steam fitters are maggots. It burns my ass. These fuckers watch Fox News and listen to right-wing nonsense. I know hundreds of guys there. I got 20 years in, and they've been growing more and more. Most are non-union guys who are organized in.
Mm-hmm.
See, in the name of in the name of expanding the numbers, you bring in the non-union guys, and as long as they'll pay their damn dues, welcome.
All right. I'll see your steam fitters, and I'll raise you some law enforcement and military.
Sure.
So and I will and remind me to talk. Well, let me say it real quick. Remember, I don't know. I've never done blue collar work. However, I've been to a lot of happy hours in downtown Philly, and when they were building certain skyscrapers, I'd be in there with the iron workers and whatnot. Steam fitters, man, they're like at the top of the pecking order. They make a lot of money.
Yeah,
they got plenty of money to throw around. They make good money. Good. They make more money than professors. They make good money. So then we got the law enforcement. This shit, and then this weekend, because I like C-SPAN because it does have a lot to offer. It's not just Washington Journal. It's a lot. Their website is just chock full of information. They had this asshole named Olson on, and he was like a Charles Murray of a right-wing think tank. And he was just all calm and metered in his speech. And he said, well, we've been talking about, when folks get in the voting booth, they're going to vote the way they want. So you can't trust the polls, which, see, he didn't say it in everyday, he didn't say it in scientific language, self-reported data is the weakest type of data. And that's why you can't, the whole thing was about the stigma of backing Trump. There's a social stigma, which it should be. Then they brought up that Harvard study, which you don't hear enough people giving the real analysis of the Harvard study that said that the media is slanted against Trump. And that's only because, and I'm saying this quickly, only because, of course, if the media is honest, that Trump and his administration engage in negative and antisocial behaviors on a chronic scale. So that if you just cover just what they do, their behaviors verbally and physically, of course it's going to be negative. Because remember, I was a coder at one point. In other words, you can look at someone's statements. You see what they say, you write it down, and you code the words. And and it goes through a focus group so that everyone agrees on who says what. And there's a way that you can say, okay, well, this is a negative statement. This is a positive statement. So this is scientific. It's not just, I'm not saying this shit off the top of my head. This is nuts and bolts, scientific statistics. They engage in negative and antisocial behaviors. And it's not hard to figure out. Calling someone a name is negative. He's not going out and buying Girl Scout cookies on Pennsylvania Avenue every day. He's calling migrants an infestation. That's a negative statement. But he says, it's about love. You look at that, like you said, the Nuremberg rally. And, and fuck them. If they don't like to be called Nazis, they need to stop acting like that. Fuck that.
Well, precisely. You don't want to be. I can't say it any better. You don't want to be called a Nazi. Don't do Nazi shit.
Don't do Nazi shit. Don't separate children from their families. And you know what? And I hear this every fucking day. I hear them say, well, like if I got a DUI or I was arrested for drugs, they going to take my children away from me. But guess what? You know where your children are because they're in the system and there are records. So don't let anybody at your water cooler at work or wherever you work or if you don't work, whoever you're fucking with, whatever. Don't let them get away with that. That's bullshit. That's a bullshit argument. It carries no water. Fuck that. We have to be eloquent and succinct and smart about our arguments, man. This is we're up against some shit now. Fuck this. We cannot let our country go down the tubes like this. And I say, you know what? Trump he knows, he smells this shit coming. He's bucking for a civil war. He knows these motherfuckers are going to rise up. They're violent. Listen to these words. These words carry something. They have meaning. And the folks, these folks are violent. We prefer to make arguments. They prefer to fucking beat heads.
Yeah. We say, well, your premises are flawed. And they kick you in the nuts and then get you to the ground and stomp your head.
Yep.
I mean, look at a classic case, of course, came out of Portland this weekend. Darlene in Connecticut, Portland, Antifa, which sounds reminiscent of an Islamic terrorist group's name, was labeled by Trump as a domestic terrorist group this weekend. Really? What happened to there are good people on both sides? And there was one in particular, the guy that got this whole ball rolling is named Andy Ngo, N-G-O. And he's the guy that got a milkshake thrown on him, poor little snowflake, a month or so back at a protest. Because he fashions himself or fancies himself a reporter, but he goes into the middle of these things and instigates, and then tries to hide behind some sort of journalistic credentials. Well,
so he's a agent provocateur is what he is.
Ding, ding, ding. So there was a busload of Proud Boys and Patriot prayer creeps and whatnot. And they pulled up, and one of them threw a hammer at Antifa.
Oh, shit.
And then somebody in Antifa picked up the hammer and started banging on the bus. And meanwhile, the little creeps were trying to get in the bus and realized that, yeah, they didn't want any of that. And so the only thing that goes out is video from people saying, see, Antifa are domestic terrorists. They came after us with hammers when they brought the fucking hammer themselves. And this is how disinformation works.
I'm concerned, Bob.
And if they're gonna name Antifa a domestic terror organization, well, I guess they better go ahead and name the United States Army, the United States Navy, and the United States Marine Corps as the same. Because every last one of them were Antifa 80 years ago. I've got Antifa relatives in the dirt who didn't make it home from France and Belgium, whom I never got to meet.
We should not use the phrase Antifa. We should say anti-fascist. And you know what a fascist is, don't you? And see, we have to be on mess. We have to be lunch-like about this shit.
Yeah. But Darlene's right. They try to make it sound like ISIS or MS-13 or any of that silly shit.
Antifa. Yeah, right.
And they put Antifa.
Like it's some foreign agent.
Or, I mean, it sounds like something you'd get at a farmer's market.
It sounds like a disease, doesn't it? A pathogen.
But I got a note from Lady B regarding union members cheering. I was standing here wondering why somebody would blindly go along with doing whatever they're told. Finally, Bob, I know what people mean when they say we are sheep. It's the secret popes and kings were privy to for years. A learned man is a man who understands this and decides, do I want to be the shepherd or a sheep? The third option is to just herd the flock off the side of a cliff and be done with it. We used to keep those people locked up. Now we worship them. We can be talked into Armageddon. All we have to do is keep convincing ourselves that we're not worthy of mental freedom. Meanwhile, Terrace says, Todd is exactly right. Abbreviations are bad news. Anti-fascist. Say it often. Anti-fascist. Oh, and speaking of Armageddon, Todd, I don't know if you saw this, but I caught a Washington Post story earlier today that gave me a case of the fan Todds. Headline: More Russian nuclear monitoring stations went silent days after blast. Test ban official says.
Oh shit!
Now you know there was you know there was a nuclear accident in northern Russia not long back.
Yeah, but what you just said is bad news in conjunction with that. Oh no, that's not good.
Well, the background is that we think they were testing this nuclear-powered cruise missile that lovable, huggable, squeezable, cuddleable Pootie has been bragging about. I mean, what would he want with one of those? I mean, he's so cuddly. But something went horribly wrong. People died. They were named heroes of Mother Russia for getting roasted in a nuclear accident. But as of now, 4 nuclear monitoring stations that are part of a cooperative, the whole world participates in all this stuff, especially the nuclear world. And it reports to a group in Vienna, and everything's tied together. But 4 nuclear monitoring stations have gone offline in Russia.
No data is better than bad data.
And so what people are thinking is that they're being pulled offline, of course, at orders of Pootie, because not a sparrow falls to the ground in Russia, but Pootie doesn't know about it. But those 4 monitoring stations have been pulled offline because apparently the radiation counts are terrifying, and they don't want their European neighbors finding out. The plume, however, is blowing across Mother Russia.
Oh shit!
And there's still one monitoring station in the extreme east of Russia that's online. It's not delivering any bad data, but they speculate that as the plume moves, it'll go offline too.
Well, those are the Scandinavian countries. If it's north and east, that's Denmark, Finland.
No. All of that is west of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's east west. What am I saying? I'm sorry.
But the Post reports Russian monitoring stations designed to detect nuclear radiation at the towns of Bilibino and Zalesovo stopped transmitting data on August 13th. Lasina Zerbo, the executive director of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Organization, told the Wall Street Journal. I'm sorry, it was the Wall Street Journal, not the Post. And that's 3 days after 2 other stations went silent at Dubna and Kirov.
We don't know what's going on. Did people die, or they just stopped transmitting data because it was?
Oh no, people died. That much snuck out. People died.
This is fucked up. To be technical. Damn. Man, this asshole has put us in a hole. Oh, my God. Our allies are not our allies anymore. We're in a trade war with someone we cannot win a trade war with. And have you planted your soybeans yet so you can get a money check? I got an acre. I'm planting some fucking soybeans. I want my goddamn...
Fuck a bunch of Silver Queen corn. I'm planting soybeans, right?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I mean, I imagine you can cook up a mess of soybeans and have them with cornbread and onions.
I want my fucking subsidy. It ain't welfare. If you're white and you live in the Midwest, it ain't welfare. If they want to play that game, I can play that motherfucking game. You know, I shouldn't talk like that, should I? No, but I'm serious. That, you know, what the fuck?
I know.
shouldn't talk like
I know. And remember, China is supplanting its American soybeans and grain and whatnot with a deal with Russia that's not likely to ever change, except for the fact that China might be a little worried now that, you know, soybeans are green, but they're not supposed to glow in the dark.
Oh, that's what I live with. Wait, that's a twofer.
And so they're trying to, you know, all these radioactive isotopes have particular signatures, so they're trying to suppress this information and keep it from coming out because it would give people an idea, give the world an idea of what kind of nightmare doomsday weapon they're working on.
Right. Oh, whoa, that's a nice little, yeah.
Yeah. What the journal says is arms control experts believe Russia is trying to conceal information about the nuclear technology that was involved in the August 8th accident at a test site in northwest Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump said it had to do with the nuclear-powered cruise missile. I guess that's because
wait a
Putin
minute.
told him.
Okay, northwest Russia. That's over there near China. That's where.
No. Northwest Russia is over on the Euro side.
Oh, the stand countries.
No. Up by the Arctic Circle.
Oh, wait. What the fuck? That's terrible. Man, they don't need to be polluting the Arctic Circle. Man. That's all. I was thinking about Waziristan, Kazakhstan, but it's
no, that's southern.
Oh, that's southern. Okay. Well, my geography over there is not there. They won't let me over there to look at their maps. But, you know, they're out of control. That's what I've been hearing about the soybeans, though. That I mean, this is what, you know, the learned folk have been saying, is that once you lose those markets, you know, you establish relationships with other folks who are going to provide soybeans. But you know, back to Mr. Olson on C-SPAN, you know, someone brought that up to him. He's like, well, you know, he had some bullshit excuse, but you know, he was like, you know, he's supposed to be an academic. He has credentials. He went to some, I don't know, he went to some online school that I never heard of.
Yeah, the Draw Spunky school.
Yeah, you know,
Draw the pirate.
But I mean, you got to hear this, man. C-SPAN had some good things on when Congress is out of session. I mean, you know, just they're on vacation, so it was really interesting. And Steve Scully was doing the interview, and these motherfuckers swear that C-SPAN leans to the left. I mean, this is like, it's just unbelievable. If they don't like what they hear, it's leaning left. Like, why are you always bashing Trump? Every time I hear something negative about Trump.
Go ahead. Say it, Todd. Say it, Todd.
I can't, Bob. I can't.
Just give Trump a chance. Just give him a chance. Just give him a chance.
Goddamn. All you do is hate on that man. That man trying to make America great, dog. You give that man a chance. Just give him a chance. It's only been 2 years, 2.5 years. He ain't got his second term yet.
See, I knew you could do it. By the way, you're getting fan mail. You're getting fan mail. Eileen in New York just said, "How do I love Todd? Let me count the ways."
Well, love my verbiage. Well, anyway, thank you. That's a hell of a. Anytime I get a compliment, I say thanks. That's good, because I have to tell you, I get nothing around here. You know what I get? I get shit on. I'm around. You're right. I'm in the deep south, man. But I will say this. Let me say this. In the past 2 weeks, and I mean this, the folks who appear to be white to me, right? There's a drastic difference. And I mean, I like when in the summertime you could tell I'm black, but when it's you know, in the wintertime, motherfuckers don't quite know what I am. Sometimes, but people you could tell the folks who are non-Trumpish. They are very nice. They are so nice. And the Trump people, because I always try to be polite out in public. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You don't know who you're talking to in a small town. You got, you know, just be nice to everybody. Treat people like you want to be treated. Because there's some evil motherfuckers out here, man. You be nice and they look at you, they look at you like they want to spit on you. I'm like, damn, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because I get look, I am the nicest person in the world, but if I see that you trying to do me harm, man, don't fuck with me. And let me put this one story in, and I want to say two more things, and then I'll get off the phone. All right, I had to go to jury duty last week, and don't you know that there was a certain law enforcement officer who was presenting the case that had arrested me here before for some shit that I've never been accused of in my life.
Wait, jury? You were on a grand jury?
No, I didn't say grand jury.
Okay.
I don't know. They might. I don't know. They might put me in. Who knows? No, you know what they do down here? They try to take the elite people in the community and put them on the grand jury. That's what they do down here because it's supposed to be secret, but you kind of know who's on there. But no, it's a small jury pool. So anyway, this guy had arrested me before, but he wasn't a sergeant yet. So now he's a sergeant. And what happened is that when I just blew it off when he arrested me, and I was found guilty even though there was no evidence or anything. I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. This is some Jim Crow shit. I'll just fucking roll with it. I paid the $65 fine. It was nothing. I felt like it was nothing to it. But actually, there's something to it. That shit follows you.
Sure it does.
And it was fucking, it was made up bullshit. I mean, shit I've never done that in my life, never been accused of it. And I was a middle-aged motherfucking person. I'd only been here a couple of years. I moved here in 08. I've never been accused of what he was saying in my life. So when I got the police report, like 5 years later, I don't know, 4 or 5 years later, I got a copy of the police report, which I was so stupid. I didn't get a police report before I went to court. I could have hired a lawyer. I had money then, like that. I wasn't hurting for any money. And so, but anyway, long story short, so here he is, and I'm like, oh my God, this is. I was like, oh no. So finally, they weed you out. They ask you all these questions. So finally, it comes like, well, do you know this plaintiff, or have you had any interaction with this officer? And I was like, oh hell yeah. I stood up and I went up and talked to the judge, and the city has their own attorney. So it's just, when you go up to the bench, it's the judge and the city attorney to my left.
Yeah.
And, of course, me. And I said, oh, no, I question this officer's integrity. Oh, absolutely. And the judge got a draw. I mean, he's like, this is like something out of
Takes a lot of nerve to say something like that, son.
You know you're a Negro, don't you? I was like, I was like, oh my God. I said, yes. Oh, I said, I'm not saying he lies all the time. No, that's not what I said at all. I didn't say it like that. I was very erudite with my language. And that made that motherfucker's eyes pop up. And he was like, well, and the attorney, he lost his color. He was kind of pale anyway, so whatever color he had was gone. And they acted like, I don't believe in Negroes around here, man. They're scared. I don't give a fuck. I'm sorry. I've gone through too much shit to fucking be shit on by these little ignorant motherfuckers, man. And I will say that to their face. Not in that same way. But yes. And I felt vindicated. And I put my hand on the Bible and I said, I swear to God, may lightning strike me down in front of you. And he was like, you're excused. I was like, thank you. Have a good day, gentlemen. But wait a minute.
Have fun maladministering justice.
Have fun. And everyone, there were like 6 people behind me. And look, this started with a full room of a jury pool. It had whittled down to a handful of folk. And I think this dude is a bad egg. I really do. And that's why the city attorney was looking like he did. Because I pay attention to body language. And he was looking really irritated. And then I looked back, I was like, oh, that's why. Because there were people behind me. He's a miserable. In other words, if you looked at him, this person, you would say, oh, he's a maladjusted individual. He doesn't look happy. He's all hunched over. He looks like he probably drinks, I don't know, at least half a quart of liquor a day. I mean, he's just not happy looking. He's just not. Something's wrong with him. But the motherfucker lied. I mean, he made up shit on the police report. I'm like, what? When I saw that shit, let me tell you what I had to do.
Am I reading about me?
Right. This is not me. And I'm like, first of all, I don't weigh this. I'm like, he couldn't even look at my driver's license and copy down the right information? Oh, fuck that. Then I was like, oh, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. What? So I had to go down and meet with the chief of police, who I met before. And, of course, you know, down here, the white man is always right, except when you meet me. And I don't play that shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't play that shit. I really don't. I mean, look, I'm ready to take my lumps. If I have to, I will. But somebody has to stand up, and I'm that motherfucker. I'm not just shuffling-ass Negro around here. I'm telling you. So I went down there to, the chief of police, and I knew he was recording what I was saying. And I said, look, do you think I would be putting myself in jeopardy by complaining if what I was saying was not true? I said, come on. This is absolute. This person has made this up. This is ridiculous. I said, the fact is this don't even matter. This incongruent. This couldn't have happened the way you described it. What is going on here? And he's written me up for a ticket saying I crossed in other words, when you make a left-hand turn, you're supposed to not cross the yellow line when you make a turn, which is fine. You're supposed to do that. He said I did that. Then they illegally searched my car. I didn't make a big deal about it. And I had a dog in the car. He said, dog on a bite? I said, I don't know. You better ask the dog. I'm sorry, but I'm active. I'm active in the city. As a matter of fact, I'm a docent in the museum here. So, I don't know what's going to come of this, but I know people are talking now. I just thought it was funny. It's appropriate right now in terms of what we're going through. And so quick rewind. Folks who are decent now, because this stuff is just so out of control. The president is showing his insanity, talking about buying this white-ass country that he will never be able to buy. This is just silliness. And this is kind of like
that's a good distillation. It's silliness, but like I said, I've got my own theory from last Friday night for why he wants Greenland. He wants to shut down the climate research. But you have encouraged further emailing on the subject line Trump bashing. Megan says, every time I hear complaints about Trump bashing, I have to remind people that we endured 8 years of these same people who thought President Obama was a Kenyan-born secret Muslim Black Panther witch doctor with a bone through his nose who was secretly working with Al-Qaeda to bring down Merca. Where was I respecting because of the office then? P.S. Send Todd my love. I love his rants. Then there's Darlene in Connecticut who says, sorry, Eileen, you've got competition. I saw Todd first. Yes,
wow.
Yes, Darlene continues. 5 Russian nuclear scientists were killed in the explosion, and then the Russian doctors that attempted to treat or diagnose them were also summarily whisked away and haven't been heard from since. It is presumed they also became contaminated from the radiation coming off the scientists' bodies. It's believed that the Russians were attempting to develop a nuclear-powered conventional missile. The Russians were also preparing to evacuate a nearby city and warned the residents to prepare, but then suddenly reversed themselves and canceled the evacuation. Rachel Maddow said her program will continue to follow the story, one of the few that's doing so.
Wow. That's a big deal. Well, I think look, it makes me, thank you people. I'm just speaking the truth. And so, I feel vindicated. Thank you very much. And I think this Russia thing is scary, and I hope, there's a guy named Arnie Gunderson who, I don't know, you look his name up. People know who he is, I guess. But I hope she does follow this. This is serious. This is really, I hope. And it was nice hearing Carol last week. And, I want to say that I agree with a lot of what Clarence had to say. Now, my experience was different, but I was a little confused because, like Clarence said, he lived there and he moved, and I was trying to figure out when he lived on that block because that's the only thing I was curious about because I've been on that block late at night. There's an all-night steak shop across the street. Now, I will say this. When I was in late 80s, early 90s, and when crack was king, it was bad there. But, and I maintain that I personally, I never saw any street-level drug dealing. but that doesn't mean that people's houses weren't getting broken into because it's a little dark. I mean, there are a couple of trees in that neighborhood. But, Bob, I mean, like, Philly is funny, man. It's like all cities. I don't know. I won't say all cities, but a lot of the cities that I've been in and lived in the Northeast, there are crime in pockets. Like, you can cross. There are imaginary boundaries. There's a word in sociology for it. I'm not going to get into it. But you can cross one block, and things will happen on one side of a block and won't happen on another. But you see, Temple owns a lot of that property around there, and they continually buy up those houses because a lot of reasons. First of all, it's income. Second of all, it stabilizes the neighborhoods. I mean, there's a lot of pushback from neighborhoods in North Philadelphia to Temple. Like right now, they're trying to build a football stadium, and they're going to have to displace a lot of people. That's a big deal because, gentrification is happening everywhere. Now, they don't have rent control or anything, but like I said, the crime that I saw was, I knew it was there.
That baffles me. 5 and 6 football teams, 6 and 6 football teams, probably ought not be pestering the city for a football stadium. But I guess Temple's sick and tired of playing at Franklin Field.
Well, no, they're playing at the new stadium. But they have to pay a lot of money. No, they're playing at the new stadium. They're playing at the new stadium. They pay a lot of money.
They're playing where the Eagles play?
Yes. And see, they have to pay a lot of money.
I drove by that complex. That's a heck of a complex out there.
It's a heck of a complex. Can you imagine sitting up in those the top of the stands there? That's a whole different. You're in a different weather area.
Shit, no kidding. And Well, I remember going to a game down at the LSU stadium. They can't build out, so they have to build up, and those seats were practically vertical. It was a little bit phobia inducing.
Have you ever been right? And some of these, I'm telling you now, I like to drink beer, and beer makes me wobbly sometimes. And some of these, man, you have to go walk straight up. That's and these seats are tight. I don't know about all that, man. But yeah, the Eagle Stadium is beautiful, by the way. It is, and they have there's a fairly new. See, I left in 2008, and that's what I was. That's what I was wondering with Clarence. There's drug crime everywhere. All right, there's drugs everywhere. This is America. This is what we believe in. We believe in drugs. Let's just be honest. Because in suburbia, if you live in a cul-de-sac, there's folks, what the folks are doing. They have the garage door up, and you see people come by, and they drink beer, and they go in the freezer, and they get whatever what. And people leave, but the police presence is different, and things are just done differently. But it's still dope.
Yeah.
Now, but what Clarence was saying about tasting, see, North Philly, man, I mean, I'm not exaggerating at all, period. I think Clarence can back me up on this because he talked about it. Literally, all right, they call it Nightown Tioga because these neighborhoods kind of merge and they have funny lines. So the west side of Tioga is East Falls, and actually the mayor lives, the old mayor, Ed Brindell, lives there. I know where his house is. He lives right off of Midvale Avenue. I'm not going to say the name of the street because that's not fair. But you know where his house is. There's always a car out there. But like where Tasty Cake is, and Pet Boys. You heard of Pet Boys, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, their headquarters is right 1 block from Tasty Cake. And Bud, Bud, my dad worked at Bud when he was in college. Everybody, coming up back in the day had a job at Bud because they paid really well. You could pass the test or whatever, you got a job at Bud. But in North Philadelphia, there was a factory every 2 or 3 blocks, no matter which way you went. There was a factory, especially on the east side of Broad Street. I mean, think about Philco. Remember Philco TVs and radios? That was Philadelphia coming. Philco. RCA, he said RCA. Atwater Kent, Lippincott Books, just everything. And when all that left, the dope came in. And so he made a very good point. And all I can say, like I said, is that
the dope comes in times of economic collapse because people have to have some way of ameliorating their misery. Let me share a couple of more things, Todd. Thank you, Todd, for your civic duty, standing up for your rights. The country is better for it. Take care. That's from Renee. And Jimmy in the far northwest says, Todd, just love to hear you and Todd's conversations. Tell Todd, don't hold back. Say what's on your mind. And I wanted to make sure that we got to this on Moran Monday because, well, this is just classic Moran Monday material. It's getting harder and harder for some of the members of the regime to maintain their what's the word I'm looking? Serenity. To maintain their serenity. And apparently Lawrence Kudlow is one of those people. I don't know if you've seen or heard this clip, but it's got to be played. They wanted they wanted Fox News TV had Dana Perrineal. I call her Dana Taint. Dana Perrineal, formerly of the Reign of Error W administration.
I never heard of her.
Oh yeah. She was part of the comm shop. I think she came after Nicole Wallace. But Dana Perrineal had Lawrence Kudlow on to calm people's fears about the state of the economy, which, of course, most of us think is getting ready to go in the shitter. I mean, Julius Geezer just asked the Fed to knock a point off the rate.
I heard that. He's crazy.
And you only do that if you're anticipating a recession. And there's all kinds of stories out there about how he's having kittens with crocheted tails because he knows he knows he is dead in the water if the economy tanks on his watch because he's fresh out of Obama and Hillary to blame. And he can't hang this one on Comey or Mueller or Jefferson Davis, Beauregard, Sessions the third. He's finally going.
Michael Brown's fault.
Yeah, he's finally going to learn that the buck, whether he believes it or not, really does stop at his desk. And having been the president's economic advisor for a little while, Lawrence Kudlow probably has a pretty good idea of what he's dealing with, and that's why when he showed up on Fox, well, he was a few sheets in the breeze.
Oh, shit. Are you going to play that? I want to hear it.
Yeah, I got it right here. Give me a minute.
Oh, man.
Might take a second.
This is what he said in 2018.
I always thought he had a couple.
We're going to be putting in a 10% tax cut for middle.
Hang on, Todd. Hang on.
This is going to be put in next year.
Is that?
I'm going to love this.
This is what he said. This is what he said.
Let's go back to the beginning. They start out with a nitwit Nero clip.
This is what he said
I can't hear
in
you.
2018.
Okay.
Watch.
We're going to be putting in a 10% tax cut for middle-income families. It's going to be put in next year.
Is that still on the table?
Well, we're looking at it. Tax cuts 2.0. We're looking at all that. By the way, Senator.
Well, we're looking at it. Tax cuts 2.0. Everybody loves the stork. Everybody says, hey, have a drink. You're the stork. Have a drink. It's right out of a fucking Warner Brothers cartoon. I mean, just listen to how he dives into answering the question. It's beautiful. I mean, this is like the old drunk guy at the bar in Bewitched. You know, the classic 60s drunks before we understood fully understood how dangerous alcoholism could be. You know, this is Otis Campbell in the Andy Griffith show. Oh, it's good. Tax cuts, Andy, tax cuts. I'll just let myself into the cell.
Well, we're looking at it.
We're looking
Tax
at it.
cuts 2.0. We're looking at all that. By the way, Senator Rick Scott of Florida, very smart guy, made an interesting proposal.
Ida proposal. That's what my grandmother's name was, Ida. And when her husband proposed to her, and that was an Ida proposal. It was an interesting Ida proposal. Rick Scott, Florida. I mean,
oh my God,
this is for the ages.
A very smart guy.
I thought it was
interesting proposal on another network last week. He said, "Look, why don't we take the tariffs from the China trade and turn those back to the taxpayers in the form of tax cuts. That's an idea.
That's an idea, but right now, isn't all of that money going to shore up our farmers?
Well, we've got room to do that as well. I mean, look, let's let people keep more of what they earn. Let's let them keep more of what they invest. That's the supply side Laffer curve. We believe in that. I can't say definitively this morning. All I'm saying is there's a lot of good ideas to create more incentives to work, save, and invest. Look, President Trump is transforming and rebuilding this economy. We've done very well in our first 2 years, just short of 3%, which is kind of a miracle, Dana. We faced severe monetary restraint from the Fed, 7 rate hikes. I think they're reversing that now.
Wow. I mean, in the bag, right, Todd?
In the bag. Is that from Fox News Sunday?
Was it yesterday or the day before?
Yes, Fox News Sunday. Today's Monday, right? So that, okay. So that was the Dana, because I listened to the. Okay. Well, damn. Yeah, I did hear that. I thought he was drunk. But because honestly, I'll be honest. Now I could not hear the clip. Because of the new setup, I couldn't.
Oh, you couldn't hear that?
No.
Son of a gun.
Well, it's okay. Look, the sound. You and Scott last week when you guys were talking about your radio stuff. That man, you and Scott have a banter. But so that's okay though. Because I thought it was Dana Bash at first, and I was like, wait a minute, Dana Bash is not on that network. So. Right. So I heard that. I was like, he sounds.
That's Dana Perineal.
Right. And you told me that. And I thought about it. Right. Because I remember hearing that. Because I do the replay. They had the replays on C-SPAN radio. And that's with no commercials. And that's when I do it. Because I can't help it. But yeah, he said, man, that dude was fucked. He was, look, don't they have liquor in the green room or something?
Not usually, no.
They don't?
No,
okay.
No.
So that means, but
no, they don't. No, they don't have Isaac from the Love Boat there with the black trousers and the white shirt and the black bow tie going. You want a triple martini extra dry before you go on the air, Mr. Kudlow? No, that doesn't happen.
Oh, well, I could.
Yeah, now there's a reference. Ron and Raleigh says, I'm thinking he's channeling the late great Foster Brooks. Remember my note from the other day? No matter how many times they try supply side and tax cuts, they keep going to that dry well. It's the Laffer curve because we believe in that.
He said, no, that car's not blue. It's green. Can't you see? Like, no. Oh, my God.
You have lovely feet.
Yeah, he was in the bag, absolutely, and he was doing his best. Like, oh, let's hurry. And he caught it. He was like, oh shit, that sounds drunk. He was like, okay.
Yeah, Jimmy says, the drunk sounds like he had a few lines too. You know what?
Like that.
Maybe they're sharing out the occasional rail from Nitwit Nero's Adderall stash.
Isn't that something? And Bob, I know you're going to go because everybody wants you to talk to somebody else. But this habitual stimulant thing, we all know that is not good for anyone's brain. You cannot continually, let me say this. It's absolutely appropriate for the president of the United States to have to use stimulants when he's doing these flights across the world, and you have to be alert to deal with world leaders. That's absolutely appropriate. That's called drug use. It's prescribed. That's what you have to do. Like fighter pilots and stuff like that. That's fine. But to do that shit all the time, like when he was looming behind Hillary Clinton, when he was behind her like he was going to fucking grab her throat or some shit, doing that. You remember?
Oh,
during
yeah.
the debate?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he does it all the time.
When he's doing these Nuremberg rallies, he's all fucking jacked up, man. He's fucking, he's a drug addict piece of shit. Fucking, I'm just done. I'm done with him. And I don't understand what's going on. I really don't. It's like we have to put up.
He may be in worse trouble than you know, because you know this. No, I'm notorious for the fact that I don't buy into hoodoo, voodoo, miracles. I don't live in the demon haunted world. But there are some things every now and then you look up and go, "Oh, I would hate to have that said about me." And so this weekend, he started, just to prove that anytime we think he's gotten as shitty as he can possibly be, he gets shittier. Every time we think we've found the basement, the bottom of his shittiness, oh, look, there's a trap door and it goes even deeper.
Damn.
And so
Bob.
he decided to attack Rashida Tlaib's 90-year-old Palestinian grandmother.
No.
Yeah. He said the only good thing coming out of this is that she doesn't have to see her nasty granddaughter. Over the whole Tlaib.
What?
Yeah.
He said nasty? He didn't say nasty.
No. She didn't have to see it.
What doesn't matter?
And so some enterprising journalist, because out in the world there still are, went and found Grandma Tlaib. And they asked her about the shitty thing that he said about her and her granddaughter. And there was a photograph that accompanied it of Grandma Tlaib. And she's 90. And she wears every year of it with honor and integrity and dignity.
He talks shit about a 90-year-old. You know how hard it is to be a fucking 90-year-old Palestinian in an occupied territory in Israel? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, right.
God damn, what a piece of shit.
And so she responded gracefully. She didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "May God ruin him."
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want that on me.
No. I mean, no, because 90-year-old granny women are tapped into the universe.
Look, he better watch the fuck out. I wouldn't be standing next to that crazy
I wouldn't step on a crack. I wouldn't walk under a ladder. I wouldn't bend. Because may God ruin him.
She really said that?
Yeah, she really said that.
And she's living in an outdoor fucking concentration camp. And she said that.
Well, I mean, we don't know exactly what her living conditions are, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, we don't.
Yeah, I'm looking for the story now.
Wow, man. I bet. Did I say how much I really love Carol Baker?
Yes, but yes. She was awesome last week.
She's the one who got me talking freely on your show. Like, I don't give a fuck. Honest to God. Because she's the real deal. She is the real deal. I wish she would like phone in more often, because I was getting a little concerned.
Yeah, the story was out of the New York Post. Muftia Tlaib spoke with Reuters in her garden in the village of Bayat al-Fawqa in the West Bank. They haven't bulldozed it yet. They probably will tomorrow.
The occupied West Bank. Oh, yeah. They're waiting on. Yeah.
And so they read to her Trump's tweet.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Trump tells me I should be happy Rashida is not coming. May God ruin him."
He better watch out.
And what he said was,
he better watch out.
And what prompted it, Representative Tlaib wrote a letter to Israeli officials desperately wanting to visit her grandmother. Permission was quickly granted, whereupon Tlaib obnoxiously turned the approval down, a complete setup. The only real winner here is Flave's grandmother. She doesn't have to see her now. You evil, wicked, vicious piece of shit.
He doesn't know when to stop. Let me be quiet. Please say that again. Can you repeat what you just said, please?
What she said?
Please. No, what you said.
Evil, wicked, vicious piece of shit?
Yes. No, the way you said it, Bob, that came from your inner core.
I mean, there's not a shred of human decency in him. Not an iota. Not a scintilla uris. There's not an atom. There's not a subatomic particle of decency in him.
Well, so let me ask you this. Since we know this, we know the mental health professionals have warned us that he's a danger.
Oh, they're past warning. They're screaming from the rooftops, but yeah.
So why? And I know you keep saying there's not enough time. I think there's enough time. People have to work 12-hour days. We have to.
But we've been over this, Todd.
Uh-huh.
Being batshit crazy is not an impeachable offense.
No, it's not about being crazy because we can't prove it. Because he won't submit to what takes it to be proven. I mean, subjectively, yes. I mean, everybody said that, yes. However, what I'm saying is that his actions. He's breaking the law every fucking day. I say do it. Just come on. I know the way you have to. Well, I don't know. But this is what I don't understand. All right, when you write a grant, when you have to write a massive grant at university, it's compartmentalized. Everybody gets a part. And then it all gets assembled. There's just like there's a long conference table full of binders, okay? But it all relates to one entity, one thing. See? So there might be like 50 articles of impeachment. So does it not get tied together like that?
Well, kinda. I mean, various committees develop evidence, and then, in theory, you form a select committee. Kind of like the Maggot Congress formed a select committee on Benghazi.
What an example.
I mean, that's one of the more recent applicable. Yeah. Oh, and by the but it's been a fantastic conversation. Clarence did write back in.
Okay, I'd like to hear what he has to say. Now, I have much love for Clarence. Period.
He said my address was 3700 North 15th Street. I left July 2017. My house porch was a crime scene in June 2017. Young sister was shot and killed because of the drug trade. I used to argue with the drug boys all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So he said it was like 15th and Butler. That's where it happened. And look, that happens. These folks are, I can't argue with that. I'm dealing with young people around here, man. There are more gangs here than there are where I did not really in gangs. And I didn't see any gangs. And, I was I'm not telling myself. I'm just saying I'm not. I had a very active nightlife. Let's put it like that. But they have real gangs down here because there's it's like if you want to start a gang, why not go to fresh territory? If you want to plant crops, you go to a barren field, right? Like people wear a lot of red around here. You see, people wear a lot of red around here. Let me put it like that. And so I can understand what he's saying. It's like, you don't want to live in that area. That's why I couldn't stay with the woman I was living with in Kensington. And I told her, I said, well, you know, I'm leaving. I gave her notice, and I said, when I leave, what? You're going to get broken into? It's going to be ugly. They broke in, took all her tools. I mean, because we were fixing up the house. We were investing in good tools, you know, reciprocating saws and this and that, you know, do it yourself, watching a DIY all day. I was like, this is not the place, you know. But, yeah, Clarence, man, look, and man, that's why Temple needs to buy up some of that property, man. It has stabilized North Philadelphia. And Temple, you know, that's all I can say. And Bob, man, I left you a great review, but I don't know what they have to do to fucking put it up on the thing, on Apple. I looked today, and I don't see it. I don't know what's going on. I don't.
It may be moderated. I don't know.
No, I didn't curse. No.
No, but I mean, if I put up a review of a book on Amazon, it'll take a couple of days to hit.
Oh, a couple of days. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that was today. Well, man, you know, you're doing an excellent job, man, and thank you very much, because you give voice to the voiceless, and you make us feel like we're not going crazy. And
well, that's only because you do the same for me, and I appreciate it. And by the way, Eileen in New York has responded to Darlene's "I saw him first" with "girl fight."
Get the Vaseline now. Let me explain that. Now I don't know, like a lot of times, like in the hood, right? When women fight, they put Vaseline on their face so that if they get cut or, you know, blows slide off.
Yeah, kind of like what the cut doctor does, the corner doc does in the ring.
There you go. Because I didn't know that. I found that out a few years ago. I didn't know when girls look. That's another story. Thanks,
yeah,
Bob.
we probably better not go there before we get in trouble.
That's why I wanted to nip that. I wanted to Barney Fife it, man. I wanted to nip it in the bud.
Yeah, nip it. All right, Todd. You have a good night, brother.
All right, bud.
See you now.
All right.
The one and only Todd. My God. Girl fight. You people. That's an official horn, you people. Meanwhile, Brian, and by the way, thank you, Brian. We had $125 to raise this evening, and Brian took us down to only $100. And we got about a half hour left in the program. Maybe we can knock that down a little bit more. It'd be wonderful if we could, because I really want us to have some fundraising free radio. Maybe that means more to y'all than it does, more to me than it does to y'all. But it's like a vacation. It really is. So, $100 to raise to finish the evening and not have a deficit for tomorrow. Thanks, Brian. And Brian says, keeping more of what they make, going back to the drunk Uncle Larry clip. Keeping more of what they make and investing more, he has to be talking about the rich. Where I work, we just got a 5% raise, and I go to the grocery store today, and prices have gone up. And if he wants us to keep more of what we earn, then who's going to pay for the rich's tax cuts? And they want more of those, too. They'll give a tax cut to billionaires and call it a middle-class billionaire tax cut. You know, for the middle-class billionaires. Not the really upper crust billionaires or the low rent ladder climbing billionaires, but the middle class billionaires. Sure. Yeah, Foster Brooks occurred to Bill in PA in regard to Larry Drunklow. That may be his new name, Larry Drunklow. Ron in Raleigh says, Trump recession. If a recession comes any time in the next year or two, there's no room in the economy for stimulus. The interest rates can't be adjusted down. The tax cuts have sucked all the excess from the Treasury. When the fecal material hits the fan this time, it's going to make 2008 look like a walk in the park. And them chickens are going to roost hard. Lee in New York says, Trump's hyperness. I do not believe Trump takes drugs. I think he's just a sugar vat with yellow foam on the top. I don't know. We've got eyewitness Lee. We've got eyewitness testimony that the guy's an Adderall speed freak. I think you can't just dismiss that. Darlene in Connecticut says, this is where Nancy Pelosi, with every damn Democrat in the House and Senate voicing their support, should step the fuck up and tell Netanyahu, Israel, and AIPAC no more money until they reverse themselves and permit Rashida access to her grandmother. And I would say with no stipulations, no conditions attached. Because more and more, and this here is yet another Moran nomination. I got a couple here we just had to get to this evening. But lo and behold, Bill Maher in his program, and you know, he can pretend to be a liberal, pretend. And people say, oh gosh, I just love that Bill Maher. And then he comes out and, like on this past Friday, declaring that boycott, divest, and sanction, the BDS movement, relative to Israel. He thought he was being cute, and he said BDS is a, quote, bullshit purity test by people who want to appear woke but actually slept through history class. Bill Maher should probably never have the word woke in his mouth again. Because I didn't sleep through history class. I've got a better grasp on the history of the last, 2,000 years than probably most lay people. And I've worked at it. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not academic degree level or anything, but I make a point of trying to learn. For instance, I imagine if you said to Bill Maher the word outre-mer, he'd look at you like a cow looking at a new gate. But that was the kingdom of Jerusalem of the Crusades. Propped up by Europe, bathed in blood, and it lasted a couple of hundred years. A couple of hundred years is a long time, really. But it eventually collapsed. You know, there were military orders devoted to protecting the pilgrimage routes and military orders of crusader monks dedicated to protecting the holy places, yada, yada, yada. And in many ways, well, and never mind that part. But boycott, divestment, and sanctions worked in ending apartheid in South Africa. There is no reason to think that it will not work to end the apartheid in Israel. So it is not a bullshit purity test by people who want to appear woke but actually slept through history class. The fact of the matter is, Bill Maher does not have a deep dive level of knowledge of the history of the region. I guess he thinks everything starts in 1948. It doesn't. From the rise of Islam until 1948, in many majority Muslim countries, Jews and Muslims lived side by side in peace. It's only when the West started meddling in those affairs that they didn't. And that encompasses any number of different regimes, whether it be regimes run out of Egypt or Baghdad or the Ottoman Empire. But you can't behave like Israel is behaving and at the same time declare yourself to be the only democracy in the Middle East. You can't be a theocracy and a democracy at the same time. And right now, the theocracy is winning. So, Maher may have tangled with somebody he didn't want. Because Rashida Tlaib Saturday said maybe folks should boycott his show. I'm tired of folks discrediting a form of speech that is centered on equality and freedom. This is exactly how they tried to discredit and stop the boycott to stand up against the apartheid in South Africa. It didn't work then, and it won't work now. And what made Mar's comments particularly disgusting is the way he framed it. He said it's predicated, BDS that is, it's predicated on this notion, I think, it's a very shallow thinking, that the Jews in Israel, mostly white, and the Palestinians are browner, so they must be innocent and correct, and the Jews must be wrong, as if the occupation came right out of the blue, that this completely peaceful people found themselves occupied. Forget about the intifadas and the suicide bombings and the rockets and how many wars. Well, the fact of the matter is, prior to 1948, they were living peacefully, and out of the blue, they were out of their house. That's not pro-Israel, anti-Israel. It's just a goddamn fact. And they tried, and they tried to partition, and wars were fought. And Israel takes the position that to the victor go the spoils. And human rights be damned. There was another country that took that approach. And history tends not to judge that country very kindly. Now, ordinarily, this might be prayer meeting Wednesday material. But it's not. Because by Wednesday, who knows what kind of craziness we'll have. When Ohio and Alabama, Ohio Stan, contemplated their nullificationist approach to a woman's right to choose how to manage the workings of her own body, there was a national outrage. Well, Tennistan is doing the same damn thing, and it's largely flying under the radar. They're contemplating a bill that would basically make abortion illegal before a woman could even know she was pregnant. How's that? Well, it starts a few days back with a lawmaker in Tennessee by the name of Senator Mark Pody, P-O-D-Y. Before they had debate on the bill last Monday, a week ago, they had a prayer meeting. It's another of these obnoxious heartbeat bills. And this is what Mark Pody had to say.
To destroy anybody but Satan. Yeah, that's right. I'm not against any colleagues, whether they're standing with me or not. I'm against Satan, and I'm standing with God. Yes. We will not back up. Yeah, right. We will not back down. Yeah. We will not turn around. Yeah. Our armor says we face the enemy. Yeah. Right. We have no protection when we run. We have no protection for our back.
Got that? So he has defined, he's seeking to destroy Satan by banning abortions in cases of rape and incest. Now, last week we had the clip of Steve King declaring that there wouldn't be any humans left if it weren't for rape and incest. Then he got schooled by a school teacher and had to fumble and bumble around. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Then he held a town hall meeting and only 2 people showed up. I guess that was better for him, really, when you think about it. But according to Senator Mark Pody of Tennessee, and it's not like it's not also in their holy book, women are associated and affiliated with, that's right, Satan. So by taking away a woman's constitutional right, and I reemphasize, constitutional right, he is taking the battle to Satan. And so they began having hearings in the Tennessee legislature about this godforsaken bill, this bill that would make it impossible for a woman to have an abortion after she found out she was pregnant. Now, if I was bringing forward, or you were bringing forward a bill touching on women's bodily integrity and the medicine behind reproductive health care, you and I would want, say, a scientist, a physician. Perish the thought, someone who specializes in women's reproductive issues, say a gynecologist. No. Because the godforsaken maggots in the godforsaken Tennessee legislature, they can't get any scientists to say that a woman ought not have autonomy over the workings of her own body. So what do they bring in? You know this already, of course. A preacher. A preacher. But the preacher, Pastor Randy Davis, and when you hear him, you'll hear that. I think they teach that speech pattern, that tone of voice, that rhythm in preacher in school. When you hear Randy Davis, you'll recognize, because he's sitting at a table in the Tennessee legislature, in the Tennessee Senate, as a matter of fact. But he wasn't counting on getting questioned by Senator Katrina Robinson, a Democrat from Memphis. This, and Randy Davis is, of course, the Moran in this Moran Monday nomination. Senator Katrina Robinson is the hero of the piece. Word. In a couple of sentences, she simply deconstructs him for the misogynist and chauvinist that he is.
With Roe v. Wade, our society tipped toward becoming a culture of death. Abortion is largely a violent form of birth control. For mankind to claim authority in determining when life begins and when it ends is the pinnacle of arrogance. If we continue to devalue life, as we've seen in places like New York.
That's a dog whistle. New York. Yankees.
Where does it end? At what point are children with birth defects judged of no value and terminated?
Nobody's talking about terminating children with birth defects. We're talking simply about a woman's right to govern the workings of her own body.
Elderly judged of no value and are terminated. And what about ethnic groups? Send a clear message to all people everywhere, and especially New York, that together Tennesseans stand for life.
Why do they need to send a message to New York? New York makes its laws as a sovereign state. Tennessee makes its as a sovereign state. We've got 50 petty kingdoms in this country, many of which do not want anything to do with the others. God knows Tennessee doesn't want anything to do with New York, except for the money that New York sends year in and year out to keep Tennessee afloat, and Alabama, and South Carolina, and North Carolina, and Georgia, and Mississippi, and Louisiana, and Arkansas, and Kentucky, and West Virginia, and Talibandiana. Right. They like the money. I like money. So here comes Senator Katrina Robinson with a question or two.
Other Tennesseans stand for life.
How many women executive pastors do you have in your convention?
How many women executive pastors?
Or senior pastors?
None.
Burnt to the ground. And of course he has to backtrack or attempt to cover his ass. Because, you know, he's a Baptist, most likely. I'm sure he is. With that tone of voice and that speech and that delivery and that speech pattern, that is pure Jerry Falwell Baptist. That practically triggers me. So, that question.
For life.
How many women executive pastors do you have in your convention?
How many women executive pastors?
Or senior pastors?
None.
So is it the same ideology that restricts access to women being able to lead a congregation that leads you all to support women not being able to make a medical decision about their body?
I don't think the biblical interpretation of the leadership of churches has anything to do with the question before us.
Problem is, it has everything to do with the question before them. Because if you won't even let a woman preach a sermon, you're damn sure not going to let her have control of the workings of her own body. Because their interpretation of so-called scripture is a misogynistic interpretation from jump. This is a bizarre and sickening cult that believes that women must be silent in church, that if they have any theological questions, they must wait silently and with their hair properly not tempting the men folks into paroxysms of rapey lust. They must wait till they get home, and even if their husband is dumber than them, they must depend upon their husband to answer their theological questions, because being women, they have no agency. That's who these people are. But if you thought Brother Randy Davis was a Lulu, you really haven't lived until we get to Hal Rounds. Hal Rounds was described as the reported leader of the Tennessee Tea Party. He ran afoul of Senator Katrina Robinson, too. But just a friendly tip to the fetus fetish movement. It's probably not best to send your Art Bell, Alex Jones types to testify in favor of your bigoted bill. Yeah, I think a hockey puck warning is in order for this one. Hal Rounds, you see, remembers being all borned.
I have a conceptual memory of being born. In the womb, there was a sensation of compression and advancement against one side and another. This urgent pressure to burst out. And when I had this dream repeatedly through my youth, and one day I said, you know, that's kind of like being born, and the dreams stopped. I believe that the consciousness of the child is begun in the womb.
He believes. There's not a shred of science to support his belief, but belief trumps all things in a state like Tennessee.
And when you kill a child, You are killing a person who is not just aware of nothing, but of being a person.
Got that? Yeah. The fun part happened when Senator Katrina Robinson started asking him about actual science around the development of the fetus. She asked Hal Rounds, for instance, at what point medical science determines that a fetus has a fully functional brain and heart in the womb. Because this, of course, is a heartbeat bill. This says that the minute a fetal heartbeat can be detected, abortion becomes illegal. But that heartbeat isn't really a heartbeat. It is merely a circulatory rhythm because the heart isn't developed. And so when Senator Katrina Robinson of Memphis asked Hal Rounds of Fayette County and the teabaggers when the fully functional brain and heart are developed in the womb, he said, well, I don't know on the timeline, but it was way before what is considered viability by the Supreme Court. Because she had the receipts with her, Senator Robinson then replied, no, it's the end of the second trimester. To which Rounds said, no, it's way before that. And then the great big Warner Brothers anvil fell out of the clear blue sky as she looked at Rounds and said, it's the second trimester. I'm a nurse. What are you? To which Hal Rounds had only to answer, oh, I'm a teabagger. I'm a good, God-fearing, upstanding, Bible-believing, Christ-centered, evangelical, fundamental, homosexual. I ain't got sense enough to pour piss out of a boot with the directions on the heel, but I know that their brain and that their heart's developed a whole lot longer before any second trimester. But see, it doesn't matter whether they bring preachers or baggers, birchers, deathers, ninthers, tenthers, booger eaters, maggots, trumpansies. It doesn't matter because it's a foregone conclusion that this bill will pass. Because the Tennessee legislature is controlled by white Republican men who have sufficient majorities in both houses to do to the women of Tennessee whatever the fuck they want to do. Just like in Alabama, just like in Ohio. And so we're going to have to trust to the tender mercies of Brat Kavanaugh, who likes beer, and Ann's boy Neil, and Clarence Pubes on the Coke can Slappy Thomas, and shoot him in the back of the head, Sammy Bad Breath Alito, and John Roberts, old balls and strikes, to protect a constitutional right that belongs to every woman in the United States. Just like everybody has a constitutional right to own a gun. Or a constitutional right not to have to have troops quartered in their homes. Just like everybody has the constitutional right, every citizen, to begin voting at the age of 18. Those are all constitutional rights that can be undone as quickly by a twisted, white-wing, nullificationist state legislative majority as they wish to do with abortion. Going back to the topic of Bill Maher, and by the way, I'm sorry the program dropped out. No idea why. Lady B, in regard to Bill Maher, says Bill Maher fancies himself a mischief maker. He probably switched the salt with the sugar as a kid. He loves to say shit and watch what happens. He's an instigator and an agitator. He'll throw the first Molotov cocktail and give the cops your name if caught. Is he a liberal? Probably. I think he's more of a libertarian, Lady B. He's one of those people who has social liberal values issues, largely centered on his desire to legally smoke dope. But he gets as conservative as any Republican or Likudnik when it comes to criticizing the human rights atrocities committed in the occupied territories. Lady B says, is he a liberal? Probably. He lives in Hollywood, so when in Rome, right? He argues passionately for certain liberal causes, but for all his passion, I often wonder if he secretly wouldn't mind watching the world burn. Some folks truly believe they are smarter than others. It empowers them when they feel like they're dealing with stupid people. Bill Maher is that type. His tone, his smirk are always condescending. He thinks we're all stupid. I don't hate him, but I haven't watched his show for years. He ain't got nothing new to say. He just likes tossing lit matches on gasoline trails. Because that's what keeps the check clearing. Right, Lady B? And that's what matters. Did the check clear? And so you have to keep ramping up the outrage and the outrageousness. So that's why our TV landscape is what it is. I was going to mention earlier, I get up in the morning and I fire up my filthy morning habit. And on the weekends, I'll check out, an hour or so just to see if anything has blown up or anybody been blown away over the weekend. If it bleeds, it leads. But honest to God, I've gotten to the point where when they get to the a whole bunch of people with opinions and no expertise sitting around babbling about things just to be babbling, I turn it the hell off. There's a big difference between delivering the news and what you get out of the multimillionaire for-profit media. We do a lot of opinion on this program, but it is genuinely held opinion. It is opinion that is not driven by a desire to sell more soap. And I can't help thinking it somehow, when it's coming from y'all, far more legitimate. Because you do an excellent job of backing up your opinion with the facts and the experience of your expertly lived lives. Kind of like what we had from Carl at the beginning of the program. And what we have every night. So thanks, everybody, for joining in this evening. And thanks for listening on the podcast. Thank you to all of you who share your precious finite time engaging in this program, no matter how you so do. Thank you to all of you who keep the program going. I guess we'll have a fundraising goal of $300 tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. You stand alone this evening, my friend. Thank you. Well, not really, because you've got Joe and Paula and Tom in the Bay Area earlier in the evening, so you're not by yourself. We raised half of what we needed to raise. That's good. So thank you to all of you who keep the program going. Thanks to our all-volunteer staff. Thanks earlier in the evening to Sparky and Steve. Thank you to our news ninjas. Thank you, Brother Deacon Asa. Headon.live. Thank you, John Fox in Australia. Thank you, Ben Birch, whiterosesociety.org. Thanks to the hardest working, bravest people I know, the men and women of Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. 20 years at the forefront of the struggle for human rights and environmental justice in Appalachia. And always, 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 Gina, it's all for you. Later, y'all.